What's up, Taiwan? I'm Tiffany Wong with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. As Taiwan conducts its largest military drills ever, the Coast Guard reports that it deterred 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships near Taiwan's waters. The 2 Chinese vessels approached Taiwan separately on July 9th and 10th. Both of them had turned off their identification systems to avoid detection. Taiwan's Coast Guard dispatched vessels to monitor and drive away the ships. The incidents come as Taiwan conducts its annual Hanguang military drills, simulating a Chinese attack. In the run-up to this year's Hanguang exercise, TaiwanPlus reporter Isabel Wong spoke to Alexander Huang, chair at the Council of Strategic and Wargaming Studies, to understand more about Taiwan's military readiness.
I saw that your recent op-ed on the Zero Day, the movie, that's actually sparking debate or discussions either domestically or overseas, and it's talking about potential 2028 Taiwan Strait conflict. So I'm interested in knowing, can you tell us a little bit about what you wrote in your op-ed to our international audience as well?
Zero Day is kind of TV series, hasn't been put on channels. The teaser rolls out late last year, but there were debate even within the government that whether this Zero-Day scenario, like a Chinese invasion on Taiwan in 7 days, whether that will horrify our population or it will encourage our population. There are 2 schools of thought. One is to build up our defensive and warfighting capability. The other is to make sure that we can cool down the situation. We do not antagonize or build up hatred across the Taiwan Strait unnecessarily. I think my proposal was that we need to always work hard to prepare for the D-Day, but it is our undeniable responsibility to delay the D-Day as much as we can.
But there might be some difficulties within the country. As we all know, the number shows that since last June, the volunteer military personnel has been the lowest ever. What would be the feasible solutions to that?
The force level that being set by the Ministry of Defense has been 210,000 force level. And that number has not been changed for more than 12 years. Right now, as we face several factors, number one, heightened situation in the Taiwan Strait. We are experiencing a very low birth rate. And so the issue right now that Taiwan faces is not how many missiles we have, how many tanks that we have procured, is how to maintain the manpower level necessary to operate the newly acquired weapon systems. I hate to say that, but our recruitment rate as well as retention rates are in record low right now. So what we can do is to increase the salaries, benefits, incentives for the uniformed services. I know it's a quick fix, but it's necessary to maintain the force level, or otherwise. Talking about strategy is easy. Talking about how brave Taiwanese is easy. But if you are a responsible person or a policy person, you will look at the retention rate, and you will look at how many young people would like to sign up in uniform service. Then you will know, hey, we got to have some really new, different policy to get those people into our forces, or otherwise, it's rhetoric rather than capability.
I believe the Ministry of National Defense, they are also starting to recruit more female than before. What does that entail?
We had a female president and a commander-in-chief already. So there is no really different views on, whether a woman cannot bear a responsibility for national defense. I think we are pretty fair on this. Another solution is to extend the compulsory service from 1 year to 2 years. But again, given the trends of low birth rate and shrinking population, if we pour too many young workforce into uniform, then the economic development will be affected. The commercial sector will be affected. So it's a national security, or I should say nationwide issue. It's not a defense issue alone.
The Ukraine-Russia war that has been ongoing for over 3 years already, and then there's also the Iran-Israel conflict as well, and also the U.S. strikes on Iran. That all happened within like a short period of time.
Yeah.
What do you think Taiwan can learn from these?
The number one lesson is that there will be no U.S. boots on ground. So the United States will try everything possible to help Taiwan defend itself. But we do not expect that under whoever the president is in the United States to send ground troops to Taiwan, to this island, and help us to defend. It's not because of our question to American resolve. It is the fact that we do not a security treaty. We are not an alliance. We did not have a joint training, joint exercise in place. I would say whatever we have witnessed is the conflict. The conflict was not in between two nuclear powers. Okay, so if we think about Ukraine, Gaza, Iran, but if we move it to Taiwan Strait and thinking of a U.S.-China nuclear exchange, that would be a totally different scenario. It's going to be very hard for two nuclear powers to get into a kinetic, direct, prolonged conflict with a potential, possibility to escalate it into a nuclear exchange.
So do you think Hanguang exercise, like this year specifically, has all of the components needed to call it a success?
I have to say, since 1984, we spent 41 years to organize and design and plan this Hanguang joint military exercise alone. None of the scenarios in the past 41 years that we had ever designed a war game that fighting with a partner. So we defend our homeland alone. And I know this year we have extended dates, we have new weapon systems involved, and we even have a largest ever mobilization to the brigade level of the reservists. And we also involve the local fire department, police department, civil defense unit to practice our social resilience. I think this is the right direction, but we will have 42nd, 43rd Hanguang exercise in the years to come. So this is the right first step.
That was security analyst Alexander Wong. You can watch the full interview on TaiwanPlus.com. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to impose a 30% tariff on goods from the European Union and Mexico, two of the U.S.'s largest trading partners. The tariffs will come into effect on August 1st if deals aren't struck before then. Both the EU and Mexico are already in trade negotiations with the U.S. In response to the announced tariffs, the European Commission president said the levies would disrupt transatlantic supply chains, hurting both businesses and consumers, while Mexico's president seemed hopeful for a better deal.
Nosotros creemos que, por lo que platicaron el día de ayer nuestros compañeros, que vamos a llegar a un acuerdo con el gobierno de los Estados Unidos y que vamos a llegar, por supuesto, a mejores condiciones.
The news comes after Trump also announced new tariffs on many of its other trading partners this week, including Canada and Japan. Residents of Nantou County in central Taiwan are casting their ballots to decide the fate of County Councilor Chen Yuling. If over a quarter of eligible voters show up to the polls and the number of votes in favor of removal is more than those against, Chen will be removed from her post. Chen is from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and is the first of dozens of politicians to face a recall vote this year. Over 24 lawmakers from the opposition Kuomintang also have their positions at stake. They'll face recall votes later in July and in August. It's been a week since Typhoon Readiness made landfall on Taiwan's populous west coast, bringing major agricultural losses, with pomelo farmers among the hardest hit. One district in Taiwan's south reported that more than 80% of their pomelo crop have been blown off the trees by the typhoon, and initial estimates by Taiwan's Ministry of Agriculture last week showed that pomelo losses may amount to over $4 million.
也都是吃这边的柚子长大。那经过这次的风灾，其实说真的，看着看着会不自觉想要掉眼泪。
Cleanup efforts are still underway. In Indonesia, the Honggana Manyawa indigenous people live according to their ancestral customs, largely independent from contemporary development. But their way of life is being increasingly threatened by the encroachment of the world's largest nickel mine. Miriam Brenner tells us more.
Deep in the rainforests of northern Indonesia, the last of the country's nomadic hunter-gatherers are fighting for survival. Uncontacted for centuries, the Honggana Manyawa have had to fend off trespassers and face forced relocation, as the world's largest nickel mine encroaches on their land.
After the companies entered this area, my relatives had to move. A lot of my relatives in this forest are now very far to reach, thanks to the mining companies. They keep clearing the forests, while this is our land, our birthplace.
Over 500,000 tons of nickel come from here, nearly 20% of global supply. It's used for wind and solar power and in electric vehicles and stainless steel. But as demand for green energy rises, so does the cost for the Honggana Manyawa people. There are only 3,500 of them left, and their daily lives are heavily dependent on the dwindling forest.
Turning the area into a concession zone or using it for mining to boost the economy hasn't really solved any problems so far. Instead, it's created new problems. Now, what will happen to the Honggana Manyawa people? If the government keeps using their economic arguments to justify their marginalization, then it amounts to a human rights violation.
Ancestral land is protected under the Indonesian constitution, but critics say the law is not always enforced. And with the Honggana Manyawa unseen for so long, they have no defined legal status, leaving them vulnerable to mining concessions like this one, jointly managed by French and Chinese companies who say their operations here are not breaking any laws. The destruction of the land is not the only challenge facing the Honggana Manyawa.
This river, as you see, was in the past a source of life for the Honggana Manyawa people, but now it's dirty. Honggana Manyawa people are in misery.
Despite the misery, they say that they have no plans to give up their land and traditions, that see them born in the river and buried within the sacred trees of the forest.
Let me reiterate, this is our land, our home. We will not consent to its destruction. So I'm telling them this is our home and we will not give it to you.
For now, the Honggana Manyawa do what they can, with or without the country's legal protections. In the face of big business and capitalist interest, they're determined to uphold their traditional role as the land's protectors, honoring the sanctity of the place they call home. Devin Tai and Miriam Brunner for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you to Mexico City for a projection mapping show celebrating 700 years of the city's history. I'm Tiffany Wong. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
This is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?